Today was our regularly scheduled IMPD East District Task Force meeting that we have every month. Today is a 2 p.m. meeting. Every other month it's at 6:30 p.m. so that people can come whether they're based upon their work schedules. Obviously we are changing the format of our meeting for today in honor of Deputy Chief James Waters. So we're not going to have any normal business that we would usually have for our monthly task force meeting. So with that said, just wanted to let you know what the agenda for today is going to be. This idea actually came about, I had thought about it shortly after we got the news about Chief Waters, and a few of us got together, and actually Lieutenant Brian Churchill vocalized some of the same things I was thinking about. We needed to have some other event to honor Chief Waters, and so he specifically, and I thought about this also, thought that this task force meeting would be a great venue for that. It's certainly not the first platform for that. I'm sure it won't be the last, but we did want to have something in his honor at this time. So I'm going to say a few words. After me, it will be Lieutenant Mike Bruin. There's Mike. Okay. Captain Mark Rice, Lieutenant Brian Churchill, and any East District officers who want to speak. And then we'll open it up to the floor to anybody and everybody in the community. I would ask that you allow Dave Bigo, a community member, to speak first as far as the community is concerned, because he has another event that he has to get to. It's actually a personal matter that he really needs to leave for, so I would like to allow him to do that. So, having said that, and then once everything is done, we will have a benediction by Chaplain Pat Holman. Time frame wise, usually our task force meetings are about an hour and a half in length. Today, there is no end time. We want to allow everybody the opportunity to share what's on their hearts and minds, share their stories. We don't expect everybody to share. If you just want to be here and listen, that's fine too. But this is giving us an opportunity to heal and to grieve with each other. I think all of us that are in this room, we wouldn't be in this room if we didn't have strong feelings about Jim Waters. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing in this tribute with me to him. So as at his funeral service at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, the pastor, once he got up to speak, said, well, it seems as though the prior speakers, the mayor and the chief, had stolen everything he was going to say. And I had that same feeling. But I'm going to repeat a couple things because I think it's worth repeating. Son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, chief, friend. These are just a few of the titles and labels that Jim Waters held. Who was he to me and who was he to you? To me, he was more importantly, most importantly, a friend. He and I came through the IPD Academy together. We did several things together early on in our careers, and then several things together in the latter part of our careers in the past 27 years, specifically the past 2 to 3 years. So, as far as who he was to you, all of you know what those roles and titles might be. There may be more than one. So more than a friend and a colleague with me, he was a boss, he was a confidant. I'm sure all of you have multiple titles for him, and we want to remember and honor that. So let me tell you a few things that went on. So 27 years ago, when we went through the IPD Academy together, on the very first day, he and another one of my Academy classmates, Mark Spears, like to tell a story about what they observed in their first day. Jim Waters' father was an IPD officer. He was a lieutenant on the department as well as being an attorney. Mark Spears' brother at the time, Mike Spears, was a lieutenant on IPD. And so I don't know if this had anything to do with it or not, but I had come from the Houston, Texas Police Department. I had been there for 10 years, came back to my home state of Indiana. I was relatively comfortable with being a police officer, and when I was in the classroom, That first day I came in and I was reading the local newspaper because I was trying to get up to speed on what was going on in the Indianapolis community. While I knew generally things about policing, and while I always had family in Indianapolis, since I'd been gone about 10 years, I didn't really have a lot of current events going on, current event knowledge, and I wanted to keep up to speed with that. Jim and Mark Spears, they were horrified that I was sitting there reading a newspaper because obviously the lieutenant relatives that they had in their family had instilled this great sense of fear that if somebody in your class screws up, you're all going to pay for it. Thankfully, that did not happen, but the shock on their faces, and they loved telling that story afterwards at some of our reunions and things, that they were sure that I was going to get them all many more laps or many more push-ups. So thankfully that didn't happen. Along with the rigorous training that we all receive in the academy, whether it's physical training or educational training, part of the physical training was our morning jogs, and we would go out and we would jog through the neighborhood. And so myself and another classmate named Scott Osborne, who was a National Guard helicopter pilot, he ended up going on to become an FBI agent. We would run together, but we were running behind Jim. Now I'm 5'10", and Scott was a little bit shorter than me, and Jim, he's 6'5", okay? So we started having a joke as we're running along through the neighborhood, and Scott would say, hey, look at that cool old car and everything. And I said, what cool old car? I can't see for this large body of water. And then Jim, you could see him laughing, so we're behind him and he's just chuckling away, as he's running along. And he had that big smile. He's always had that big smile. And we always enjoyed that and that laugh of his. Fast forward a little bit into our careers, about 2010, 2011. The department decided we were going to go to CrossFit as a training mode, and we had what was called an on-ramp program where you trained in CrossFit. And Jim and I would come out and we'd train CrossFit from time to time. And not that he was competitive or anything, but there was one day where we had to leave the gym and go run out in the parking lot through a certain obstacle course and then come back. And we were competing against each other, and we were running, and he was trying to pass me and I was trying to pass him, and we got around to one corner out in the parking lot of the Academy gym, and there's this some sort of a parking lot sign or street sign or something there that came down to about this level on me. And I went around the corner, I thought, okay, I'm going to pass Jim, and next thing I know, there's not much room left, and I hit that sign with my shoulder. And so I thank him for allowing me the opportunity to have yet a 6th shoulder surgery. Now, there weren't any recordings or anything of this, and I'm not saying that he threw an elbow or anything, but so that's some of the stories I have about Jim. There's many more, and I hope to hear many more from all of you. Let me change gears a little bit. Shock, anger, denial, bargaining, acceptance. These are the stages of grief. Typically, we're told that they're supposed to be pretty much linear. You go from one to another to another to another, and then that's the end of your grief. Where am I? Where are you? I seem to vacillate back and forth between a lot of those different emotions, where I think I've maybe progressed a little bit, and I go back and think, maybe I'm still in shock. So all of you may be experiencing that as well, and I guess that's normal as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that if you are feeling those ways, you're not alone. More words: inclusive, molding, forward thinking, Starbucks. These are his traits. These are the things that we knew and loved about Jim because of the way he dealt with his personal life and his professional life using all of these concepts. Teddy Roosevelt had a quote that I think is very applicable to Jim. He says, "A good leader builds consensus. A great leader molds consensus." Jim was clearly a great leader. If you heard Chief Roach, in his tribute to Jim at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, he talked about, and I think it was aptly put, about how he was a great manipulator, and he did not mean that in a negative way. And he talked about Jim when he's getting to a point, he does this. And while I had never been a victim, as the chief spoke of that, I had seen him in action with that. And the point of all that is he tried to emphasize, hey, I really think this is a good idea. I really think you should think about this. Let's roll on this. Let's move on this. And so that was how he was able to not only build consensus, but to mold consensus, to go in the direction that he thought that we should be going in. So does everybody know the way that they categorize drinks at Starbucks? There's tall, not small, there's tall, there's grande, and then there's venti. So when Jim and I would go to Starbucks together, he always got a venti drink. It was typically a venti latte with vanilla cream in it. That's what he liked, ice. That was his drink of choice. And I bring this up because Jim was not only fond of venti Starbucks drinks, but he was venti in his physical size and in his intellectual size. We all know that, we all appreciated that. And it's going to be very difficult to imagine a time going on without him, but that's what we're going to have to do. It's going to be our new normal, and I'm still trying to adjust to that new normal, as all of you are. Our trick, I think, is to see what we can do to keep his vision alive. He had a great vision for this department and this city, and I was very happy to be a part of that. I looked forward to continuing to be a part of that, and I think that we all still can be a part of that. I hope there's ways in which we can keep his vision alive. Something that has bounced around in my mind a little bit, and I've talked with a few people about it, and so there's nothing formed yet, but thinking about having some sort of a perpetual initiative in his honor, specifically geared around relationship building, trust building, and community building. That's what he lived and breathed to do. And so hopefully we can have something that takes form that will be named after him and that will promote all of those things that he stood for and lived for. Communication, relationships, goodwill, servant leadership, and humanity. These are his legacy. What will mine be? What will yours be? I think together we can have his legacy live on, and I know that I would be proud to be a part of helping that legacy to live on. So I've said enough. I thank you for your attention, and now I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Mike Broom.
Hey, it's great to see everybody again. It's been a little over a year since I've been here. I'd give anything if I was seeing you under different circumstances, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here to remember Jim and pay tribute to him. I didn't really prepare any remarks. I mainly want to hear the stories that you guys have about Jim, so I'll be really brief, but I did want to mention the funeral procession as we drove across East Washington Street to here, through the lot, back across East Washington Street. I was blown away by the show of support from the city and East District in particular, and I know actually I saw a lot of you along the way, and I appreciate that so much, and I can tell you Jim would have loved that. That would have meant so much to him. He loved you guys. After he became assistant chief and I took over here, he used to tell me long into his time as assistant chief that he really missed East District. His heart, I don't think his heart ever left you guys. He loved you. He would have loved to have been here to talk to you today and see all of you again. But, you know, unfortunately that's not going to be. So So, yeah, I just want to say thank you for the support you're showing for my friend Jim, and look forward to hearing some stories about him, because I know you got them. Thanks.
Captain Mark Rice.
Good afternoon. I was here about 5.5 years with Jim, and we actually started with Scott Hassler, and then Jim came out, and then with Mike, and then with Roger. But my time early with Jim, when he came out here, I remember sitting down with him, kind of going over expectations, what he expected of me and what I expected of him. And first we talked about, I was telling him about my expectations. I said, I will, and things that I was going to offer him. I said, I will let you know who the people that you need to know in the district, the different community leaders, the cafe, the NESCO, all the different organizations and different things, the Bonner Center, the different people who I learned from Scott. So I kind of feel like I was a little bit of a commander training officer when they came out here to try to give them some of the information that they need to know. That's what I learned from Scott Hassler. And the other thing I said was, I will be loyal to you, but I expect loyalty back. And Jim never failed in that. And all the time I was out here, and in between the times of the 5.5 years, Jim was always loyal. Jim was loyal to me, and I was loyal to him. And I think he was really loyal to all the officers that he worked for. He knew all the different people he came into contact with. Jim was a loyal person, and that was one of the real traits and qualities that I really enjoyed about him. One thing when he first came out, after we talked about things, he really just jumped in with both feet. He started, making appointments, and you would hardly ever get him in his office, because what was he doing? He was meeting people. He was out talking to people. He was meeting at Starbucks. And many times when you would, okay, I'll meet you at 12:30 at Fazoli's, and also you'd be there, and then he would come up, oh, just a minute, and he'd be typing on his laptop, or he'd be on a phone call. And he was one that he had, I say, like a unicycle. He's on a unicycle, and he's juggling and spinning plates. He's got it all going. But it was something he truly loved, because he did love East District, and he loved the people out here, and he loved the atmosphere. And he started really building, I think, his team out here. He did a few strategic moves. Jim was always thinking. He always had that kind of vision of kind of building his team. I kind of consider him like kind of an NFL owner, coach, something like that. He played people's strengths. He knew your strengths, he knew your weaknesses, and he would always play to that. Like he just had people for different positions. Like, I need you here, and all of us were different in a lot of different ways out here. But then it was a combination that really worked, and that was something that I really appreciated about him. The other thing that he was really engaged with was the community, with nonprofit groups, with community organizations, and with other parts of just government in itself. When we were really down on people, when we lost our NROs and things like that, he enlisted the help of Marion County Reserves, of ISP, for different projects and things that we had going on here. He was always one that was reaching out to use that toolbox. Any part of the toolbox that would work, he would reach out and do it. And what was that for? It was for, again, we knew the mantra of reducing crime, reducing the fear of crime, and increasing the quality of life. Thank you. He was all about reducing the fear of crime and the quality of life. He really viewed community relations as a part of a crime reduction effort, because of people. I think he instilled that vision as we're working together, we're working with you, we're working with the community, of we need each other, and all together we can reduce that fear of crime, and we can reduce that. And he wasn't one to give up. We know there's many challenges out here on East District, but still he wasn't afraid of any of those challenges. So he did have that vision, that I think a clear vision, and his team members, we shared that vision with him. And as Roger said, like, and even Mike, that there are times when Jim was either assistant chief or DC of operations, or his last time as DC of investigations, he really valued his time out here, because I think he had the most, effectiveness, and I think he was promoted into those other positions because they wanted him to share that same vision with the rest of the department. Sometimes I think he found it a little bit difficult to, with all the different districts, to share that. He did share that vision, but he really made it work out east here, and it was just a very good thing to share with him. And I think the smiles. And when we look at this pen, a lot of people commented on this, and I got this from the FOP. But what they showed on the news, it was on Channel 13, was that portrait shot of Jim, but he's kind of stern. Yeah. That wasn't Jim to me. This was Jim. It was a smiling Jim. It was that person with that smile, and we used to cut up around here all the time. Believe it or not, for the people that know, we like to cut up every once in a while. But Jim was the type that sometimes I'd make him laugh, and he knew he shouldn't laugh. It would maybe be something a little bit inappropriate. And Jim, he just couldn't help it. He would just smile and laugh. And we had a lot of inside jokes I will not share. But we had a lot of inside jokes, and that's something that I'll really miss about Jim. But kind of in conclusion, I think Roger talked about he was a real visionary. What would Jim want us to do? He would want us to keep serving, keep loving people, keep the good fight out there. So I mean, that's the thing that, even though this is a very sad time, I'm kind of like Roger. I felt better this week, but you just go through times of just sadness, and then you'll think of something else and be able to laugh and joke and do that. But we were really missing. This is a true visionary leader that we lost, and I think it spurs us individually to look within ourselves, as Roger said, like kind of WWJWD. What would Jim Water have us do? And it would be keep loving, keep serving, keep leading, and keep fighting crime. So I really am missing Jim, and I have this on my visor, and I'm looking at him each time in the car, and I look at it, and I'm happy. I'm happy when I look at it because I know the relationship that I had with him. And then it makes me sad. It makes me sad losing Jim, and I know a lot of you are feeling that same thing. So this is a time of celebration. And there was one thing actually I saw an individual, and we're talking about this. It was actually a counselor, and the point that they said to me was, focus on the life that Jim led. Don't focus on the tragedy of his death and of his passing. So that was just something I would leave you with. Just focus on his life and how he served Indianapolis, how he served the department, and how he served his officers.
Lieutenant Brian Churchill.
Hello, everybody. I was fortunate enough to work out here with you people under Jim Waters for 3 years. And when Jim brought me to East District, he pulled me straight off the street as a late shift lieutenant and brought me into his world. And I spent the first 6 months in his world going, what am I doing? What are we doing? I mean, we're driving around, we're meeting with preachers, and we're meeting with community members, and we're having coffee at Starbucks, and what about the crime? I kept thinking, what about the crime? What about the robbery? They were just robbed yesterday. What are we doing? And he kept telling me, follow me, come with me, this is what we're doing. And we kept going around to different people in our city on the east side, talking to them, and building those relationships. And as an experienced street cop, I was very limited in my experience on leadership at a high level. And it was tough for me for 6 months. I even wrote a little, like a paragraph poem about it, put it up in my office hoping he would see it, talking about the confusion as to what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Because I'm used to taking the run and going and handling it, right? I want results and I want them now. I want to see the bad guy in jail, I want him going off to jail. But that's not that's not how you handle things at his level for long term. So about 6 months into my tenure here on East District, I was fortunate enough to be selected to go to the FBI National Academy. And you go to the FBI Academy, and the National Academy is for police leadership throughout the country. And there were 218 people in my class. And the very first day in my class, as myself and 200 other 40 and 50-year-old managers in their police departments are sitting there, the second in command of the FBI is up at the podium talking to us. And the first thing he said is, "Y'all know what this is?" And the light bulb went off. It's going to be hard for me, but the light bulb went off in my head. That FBI guy said, "This cup of coffee is the most important and the most effective tool that you have on your gun belt as a leader on the police department. Because in your job, it's about making relationships, it's about making connections, it's about pulling services together to help people bring themselves up. It's about you utilizing the tools in your community to fight crime long term." And I said, "Okay, I can leave now," because I just learned that from my boss back home. The man is a genius, and he was when it comes to this. So when I came back, I was a little more prepared to do my job. But in the next 2 years, I learned from him what it means to, my word for him, like Mark compared him to an NFL coach, my word for him is guru. He was my police spiritual leader. He was a visionary and a driving force behind a philosophy on this Department of Policing that we kind of skimmed the surface of prior to him. It's the cops are good at being cops. We can get out there and we can fight crime. But it's the other side to that. Can you fight crime and also help the people fix the stressors in their lives, fix the problems in their lives that, if left unattended, lead to crime? And if you can do that, you can lower the crime rate long term. And you can't do that without you people, without task force meetings, without coalitions of citizens and of government workers coming together, believing what you believe, and working to help those people in those neighborhoods. And that's what he instilled in this police department. He put it in me, he put it in Commander Spurgeon, and a lot of our young officers over here. That sergeant sitting there, I know he believes it. But his legacy will live on because we understand, like that dude at the FBI was trying to tell us, what that cup of coffee means. It's about me and you knowing each other by first name and being willing to get together to come out and help her when she's in need. And I can't do it alone, and you can't do it alone, but together we can make it happen. So I just wanted to share with you my legacy of what's been instilled in me from him. That's why I think all of you people are in this room today, not because you're here for task force, but because in some way, somehow, something that Jim Waters did or touched affected your life and made your life better and meant something to you. So that's what this meeting's about. So the police are going to be quiet. We've got a couple officers that would like to come up here and speak first, but this meeting predominantly is for you to share either your thoughts on Jim's or your experiences with Jim, or how your life or your neighborhood or your street has changed because of his way of thinking. And then maybe we, people sitting here in blue, can learn from that and carry that forward. So thank you much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. So I'm not sure who the next officers are who want to come up, but whoever they are, would it be okay with you if we had Dave Biga come up first so that he can get to his event, and then, okay, I was anybody saying no? I'm sorry?
We're charging.
Okay, all right. Dave, why don't you come on up, please? Dave Biga.
It's going to be tough for me. I tend to be emotional, especially with people I love and respect, and James Waters is one of them. And this so you know, thank you for letting me come up here early. The reason is my dad is celebrating his 88th birthday today, but he's in the hospital at the Community North. He's not doing very well, and we don't know how much longer he's got to make it. And he's been in the hospital for 3 or 4 days now. And I'm heading up there after this to see him. So thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk. But I want to echo what all these gentlemen have said about relationships. And to give you a little background on that, I grew up on the east side of Indianapolis. My mom and dad lived at 52nd Franklin, and they were original members of Maple Creek Country Club before my dad was transferred to Fort Wayne. And then after I grew up, I ended up back in Indianapolis, and we lived on the east side, and our kids all went to Holy Spirit over here. And so east side of Indianapolis is in our veins. And I've always wanted to see it come back and succeed and be the vibrant side of Indianapolis again. And I think it can. And people like James Waters makes that happen. And the reason he does is he realizes you've got to go out and bring the community together, and you've got to get people doing the right things. And just so you know, I started a cleaning company on the east side of Indianapolis in 1989, cleaning my insurance agent's office, about the size of this room. And I've grown the company today where we're in 40 states. And we also have 2 or 3 other companies. We also own Maple Creek Country Club. My family and I bought it to save it from destruction and keep a green place on the far east side here. And right after I bought it, James, I was having problems with thefts in the parking lot. People were breaking into cars while people were playing golf. And they were stealing stuff out of our maintenance barn and other things. And I got to know James, and we developed a relationship. And we worked through how we found out who these people were and got the crime stopped. And he started doing more of these things all across the east side and the far east side. And his ability to embrace people and bring them back in was just absolutely tremendous, and to stop these type of things. And we got to be such close friends that he actually came up with a program, Juvenile Justice Jeopardy, because he realized that if we want to bring the east side back and other parts of town back, you have to start with the young kids and teach them to make the right decisions at times, correct? Yes. And I was a part, and this gentleman over here was a part of that. And it was a great program where kids, they can watch on the screens and answer questions that make them make the right decisions in life. And these are the type of things that James did that's making a difference in Indianapolis, because he started here at the YMCA down the street on the east side, and it's now spread all over the city, and it's making a difference in kids all over the city. And this is the type of person he was. And this is what's important. We need this type of person in all aspects of our government, the police force all the way up. And we need more people like James. And I'll miss him. And I have to tell you this, you know, he got hit by the truck on a Sunday. The Wednesday before, he had dinner with me out at Maple Creek, because he and Chief Height, do you remember Chief Height? Yeah. They like the crab cakes at Maple Creek. I think Chief Height even mentioned on a little interview he did. And but the Wednesday before, I'm sitting there with James, and we're kind of going back through time and history, talking about all these things, and his move up into the city, and the things he's done downtown, and trying to get those people to understand that those are the important things to make Indianapolis a great place to be. And you know, it just makes it tough that I saw him just a few days before he got hit like that in the past. But he was a great man. My family loved him, and we were glad to help assist him in doing the great things that he did. And I hope you'll all remember him and kind of pass his programs along and the type of person he is. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. So, next up, there is no particular order, but are there any officers or IMPD employees, especially if you really need to go and do something else right now, that would like to come up?
Yeah, I'm Marie, something for Sherrod.
Okay, please come up. This is Officer Kamar Harper.
I'm gonna read something from Sharon. She's on vacation, but she sent this to me because she did want to share this. And so I'm gonna go ahead and read it for her. It says, I have many thoughts of Deputy Chief James Waters as we have been. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To me, I'm just still in shock.
It's all right.
So I thought it would be easier to read somebody else's, but to me, it just doesn't seem real. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was not gonna cry today, so. Okay. Sorry. She said, I have many thoughts of Deputy Chief James Waters as we have been as kids growing up together on the department, a friendship of 25 years. So my years working with him on East District would be befitting of the Western song from Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. She said the good. He was innovative, intelligent, and always thinking of the next project, which would better our community and expected you to be as well. The bad. He thought you worked as many hours as he did. And she said the ugly. Sorry, I kept it. That came out, but the many text messages we would exchange poking fun at Captain Rice when he walked fast, short steps with his hands slightly raised as if he were going to tip over. So that's what she had to share. Just my own personal words. He was an incredible person. He was very impressionable, and he always had that smile on his face. And even though I was just an officer, he knew everybody's name. He would say your name. But he was just really a great person, and I'm going to miss him. And it doesn't seem real, but, so, yeah, sorry.
Any other officers like to share? Major Lewis?
Yeah, I just want to say, couldn't pass up the opportunity to say how much I appreciated working with Jim Waters and knowing him over the years. I didn't actually work directly with him for as long as these officers did. However, I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a long time. I knew his dad. His dad was an instructor at the academy when I was coming through as a young guy. So I say that to say his dad was a great guy also as an officer. And I used to always tell Jim, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So I always had a lot of respect for him. And also, Jim Waters, not only did he care about the community and coming up with ways to reduce crime, and he also, as Lieutenant Churchill said, he always thought it was important to address a lot of the social ills that drive crime. So he was always coming up with ways to do that. And he also cared about officers and their careers. So, and he, I don't think we have time to talk about all the things he's done to help, officers in their career and through their climb, up the ladder in their careers, and also looking at, where the officer fit on the bus. He's always doing that. As Lieutenant Churchill told you, he brought him in and had him work for him, and he learned a lot from him. So, me, at one point, a year and a half ago, I was a captain. That's our highest merit rank. And we can get pretty comfortable in that position. And I was in my comfort zone at that time. And I get a call from Waters who asked me to come out of my comfort zone and to, I think you heard during the funeral, they said something about he's real good at getting you to do things that he's trying to get done. So I'm one of those guys, And he had this vision of a community engagement office that had a holistic approach to policing. So his whole vision was to balance the police department. So, we still have to go out and get the bad guys. We know that. But also, we know that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. So we also have to have a way to address some things on the front end to help reduce crime in that manner. So this community engagement office, that was his vision. So it comprised of several units just for that. Working with families, juvenile justice jeopardy is taught in that curriculum, in that branch, and also at the district levels. That was him, that was all his brainchild. You deal with reentry, behavioral health, immigrant outreach. I'm not going because she's probably going to speak. Youth services and PAC. So that was Jim Waters, and he and I, we talk frequently late at night. He might be on vacation, but he was a constant worker. He worked a lot, and I just want to say I appreciated him and having that compassion to see have a strategic approach to policing and a balance, holistic balance in how we deal with this. He cared about his community.
Thanks, Major Lewis. Officer Candy Perry.
We're all here.
At first when my lieutenant told me, where's my lieutenant? Oh, there he is. Okay. When he first told me that I may get the opportunity to say something with some of the officers, when he first told me that I may have the opportunity to say a couple of things about my friendship and my working with Deputy Chief James Waters, my immediate response was, no way. No way. I'm not going to be doing it. And then I thought about it, and I remembered one of the words that my lieutenant told me, that he made me feel like I was about 2.5 years old. He said, this was a couple of years ago, he said, Candy, you've got to learn to share the wealth. You got to learn to share. And I never thought I was a selfish person, but when I dealt with things with the community, I'd always just gone and just done it. And I wasn't thinking about anybody else. And he said, you've got to share. So I thought about how I can actually tell you guys about my experience with Deputy Chief Waters. Syria, would you please come forward? Where is Syria? Awaida Abdullahi. Africa, would you please come forward? Kwesi Brown. Mexico, would you please come forward? Rocio Garcia. India, would you please come forward? The Patels, and Mrs. Patel, please. The youth, making things count. Ms. Shauna Smiley, would you please come forward? Chick-fil-A, reaching to all nations and being a major part of the immigrant outreach efforts. Miss Amy, last name, I call you Chick-fil-A. Please come forward. Chief Waters represented all nations. He changed the face of IMPD as it relates to all cultures. He broke every single economic barrier that the IMPD has ever experienced. That includes pre-existence of IMPD, Marion County Sheriff's Department, and the former IPD. Never before in the history of IMPD or any department in the city of Indianapolis have you had this many nations of all people, of all races, of all backgrounds, of all cultures, of all races.
in a task force or a meeting, where you had the youth and the elderly alike coming together, where you have a man in a baseball cap and a ponytail sitting right in front of a woman of color with short, curly hair. Chief Waters knew how to boil it down. He knew how to take the cream of the crop and rise it to the top. Michael Bruin, Becky Lake, Lorenzo Lewis, Shane Foley. Chief Waters will forever be remembered as a person who knew how to take all people and reach to the heart. Get down on the ground. And say, let's do this together. This is about teamwork. It's about embracing each other. It's about giving of even the small, tiny things that we have and putting it in the hearts and the minds and the eyes and the sight and the roads and the paths and the difficulties and the challenges of all men everywhere, in every nation, in every household, in every home, in the heart of every child. And making the 525,600 minutes count. That is what Chief Waters was about. Let's remember the passion that he had, the smile that he gave, the warmness and the kindness that followed his footsteps every single place, and keep the legacy alive. Thank you.
Now, I don't know who wants to follow up after that. But I think Chief Garner may want to come up here. Chief Steve Garner, IPS Police.
Let me give you a perspective from the generation before Junior. I worked with his father, so I've known Junior since he was about 5. Not as close. I mean, I watched him grow, watched him go to school from afar, and watched him learn how to dribble a basketball without looking down, things like that. And so I had a great opportunity. Here's some things I want you to know about James that I didn't realize until the day of his viewing, that while his father, who also served with me on the Indianapolis Police Department some 45 years ago, his father was in the first wave of Marines that went to Vietnam 4 years before I did. And James Waters Jr. was born on 10 November. Somebody in this room knows what that date is. That's a Marine Corps birthday. That means something to me. It meant something to his father as well. And now let me shift and say, when I heard about this accident, I thought, my gosh, why that family? That family has suffered so much already. When I went to visit Jim in the hospital the day after the accident, I went there woefully wrong about what I was going to observe and experience. I went there expecting to talk to him and joke with him about what happened, and that was not what I encountered. But that morning when I got to work, as I do every single morning, I read a daily devotional. And that devotional essentially said that I have heard over the years that God will only give you that which you can handle. And when I read further in the devotional, it said a lot more than that. And that's not true at all. He won't just give you what you can handle, He'll give you that and plenty more, so that you understand you still need Him. You can try, you can be strong, you can prove to God that you're strong, but you still need God. And that family, though they have gone through what they have gone through, they have God by their side. They have for many years. I know that about the Waters family. That means an awful lot to me. So let me shift and say that the experience that I got to have with Junior, we once rode to the Smoky Mountains together on motorcycles. And during that trip, we stopped about 150 miles north of Maggie Valley, and I wanted to take a picture of my motorcycle with a backdrop of the valley and the mountains in the Blue Ridge. And as it was, I was trying to move my motorcycle up to a higher point on the ridge, and I made the mistake of letting it fall over. And as I fell over, those of you who ride a motorcycle will be very familiar with a throttle ripping open. And my throttle ripped open, and Jim laughed at that. He said, I knew what was happening when I heard that sound. Your motorcycle was going down. And Jim helped me pick that motorcycle up. And this is what I have to offer. Jim, your motorcycle fell over, but I'll help you pick it up.
Officer Tanika Sperry.
It'll be very short and sweet and not nearly as emotional as Candy's, but there were some words said at the funeral that like struck home for me, and it was larger than life. And if you ever spent any time around Chief Waters, it wasn't just his size or his smile, but his personality. He was larger than life, and the things he did for our community were larger than life. I'm like everyone, want to know why. Why take him? You know, he was such a good man. He was so good. He was so good. Righteous men walk with God in His kingdom, right? So I figure he's walking freely now. He's a soul set free. So I'm a crybaby. So. Like Tamar said, I worked for him. I worked East District my whole career. The A team, it was Commander Waters then, and Lieutenant Bruin, and Captain Rice, and I mean they were. I couldn't ask for better people to work for than those three. My commander now is all right. I like him. I'm kidding. I like him a lot. But she's right. When I came on, I was going through a divorce, you know, chaos in your personal life, and the commander always knew what was going on and would stop me in the hallway and by my first name, Tanika, you know, how are things going? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And you could tell that it came from his heart, not just, oh, this is my people that work for me, I have to be nice. He meant it, and I still think that, you know, he'll watch out for all of us. If you need something, just look to him for it. So.
Before I ask anybody else to come up here, I just have to publicly make an acknowledgement here also, and that is for Officer Tanika Sperry, who you just heard from. As fate would have it, as God would have it, she is the only reason that any of us had any hope that Chief Waters was going to survive that horrible accident. She was the first person on the scene, and she administered CPR and kept him alive long enough to be able to bring him to the hospital. So thank you, Tanika, for giving us hope and giving him that shot. We owe you that debt of gratitude. Next up, any other officers? Kartik? Okay, Kartik Patel.
I've been many places. temple, met many spiritual leaders to get some answers, queries, solutions. Maybe I received some level of peaceness when I reach there. But highest level of satisfaction I received whenever I was meeting and talking, have a coffee with James Water. I experienced in my life. In my 52 years life, I never ever seen great human being like him. And you all knows, everyone experienced this. And great asset for the human being is not a full knowledge in the head, but his heart was always be full with the love. His ears always be open to listen, and his hand is always be move forward to help. I experienced it in my life. And Barry said, never been done, never been happened before. What IMPD, in IMPD Waters did. I still don't believe he's no longer around here. I do not believe he's gone. I like to say he's here. He's in our hearts. I have really experienced he's in my heart and everyone's heart. And we continue fulfill his vision and put our efforts. And looking forward to, like Brian Church said, cannot do by alone, we can do together. And I'm available to continue fulfill his dream and make Indianapolis great and better. So that is the true appreciation to the James Hall. Thank you.
Chief Dave Hoffman from Lawrence PD.
Battery is low. Power saving mode activated. Stop recording battery.
Sometimes when I get lonely, my body camera talks to me. Like Jim Waters, I come from a family of law enforcement. I'm trying to think how to organize my timeline here and tell you just a quick story, if you don't mind. My dad he retired from IPD with over 34 years of service. And in the year 2001, I was an IPD officer of about 5 years. I was a field training officer. And at that time, IPD was hiring a lot of classes, large classes of recruit officers, all who needed to be trained. And we didn't have a lot of FTOs back then. You remember that? A lot of them were resigning. And, so the FTOs had, it seemed like back-to-back recruit officers or probationary officers in their cars. And the chief at the time wanted to reward the FTOs at the end of every time a class would graduate and go off on, the young officers and go off on their own. He would reward the FTOs by allowing them to do a detail anywhere on the department that they wanted to go. So I thought that was really cool, and I was looking forward to when I had my 4th rotation rookie officer in my car, kick him out so I can go do a detail. And at the time, my dad and my uncle, as I said, I'm from a family of law enforcement, my dad and my uncle were partners in the Vice Division. Right? Now the Vice Division, for those of you who don't know, they're undercover detectives who deal with some of the really seedy, dirty parts of human behavior, such as prostitution and gambling and bootlegging, and just they're in some really bad neighborhoods as a result of that. And so I wanted, as I said, as a young 5-year officer, I wanted to go and hang out with my dad and do a detail in the Vice unit with my dad and my uncle. I mean, what better father-son activities can you think of than to drive along East Washington Street and North College and Michigan on the west side and Tibbs. And, so that's what I did for 3 weeks. And the reason I tell you that is because that's the first time that I got to meet Jim Waters, because he was a sergeant in that unit. and he was my dad's supervisor. My dad, I had heard this name before, Jim Waters, and probably Jim Sr. and Jim Jr. So, but I had never met this guy. Our paths just never crossed in my short time on the department. But I had heard about him because my dad, who at the time had about 30 years on in service, and Jim would have probably been about 30 years old. And my dad always complimented, he loved working in the Vice Division for this guy named Sergeant Jim Waters, right? So just a couple minor quick stories that don't have a lot, you're not gonna have a big punchline at the end or anything, but we would pick up prostitutes, forgive me for just being blunt, we would, here I am, you know, this young officer, kind of clean cut, short hair. It was really hard for me to convince some of our street walking ladies that I wasn't a police officer. So I had a really tough time with it. And as Jim later told me, I drove like a cop. Right? I was driving fast and stuff. And he said, you know, when you're trying to get your mindset in the, you know, think like somebody who's trying to pick up a prostitute. You're going to drive slow. You're going to kind of lurk around and creep around. You're just going to go low and slow, right? So Jim gave me that advice, and I had better luck. But I still was not to the point of success that my dad and Jim were at, and my uncle, for those of you who know Tom Visa, he was just a really rough-looking guy, and he had no problems with it. But anyway, but one thing I remember and about Jim is that we would have an arrestee, right, in handcuffs, waiting for the paddy wagon, doing paperwork, and he would always go up to her, and this is just in my short 3 weeks of working in Vice, right? He would go up to her and he would talk to her like she was, almost like she was his daughter. And he would ask her about her life situation and offer her resources. And, you know, because prostitutes oftentimes are, they're products of sexual abuse and domestic violence and drug abuse and poverty and all that stuff. And Jim would treat them with total dignity and respect, as did my dad and my uncle. But that had a profound effect on me, watching. You know, because I'm a street cop. I'm an FTO, and as Brian Churchill said, you know, it was getting to see that different level, that different side, and so I kind of climbed through the ranks of IPD and IMPD, and I finished my last 2 years. I was the district commander of the Southwest District, and Jim Waters was the assistant chief of police, CAR 2, right? So going back from 2001. All the way fast forward to 2014 and 2015, my final 2 years with IMPD, and there was Jim Waters still coaching me, bringing me up, giving me advice. This time, not as you know, a young officer detailed to Vice for 3 weeks, but now I'm running a district of 160 officers. You know, with in those 2 years, 35 homicides and all this really high-level stuff. And there was Jim Waters. You know, always had my back, and I knew. And I knew this of Rick Height, who was CAR 1, but I knew CAR 2 had my back, and I had that history with him. And in that time, he introduced me to Mr. Patel, who cleaned up a terrible hotel on the far west side at Washington and 465, and really cleaned it up and changed the quality of life for the people in that neighborhood. And so I got to see just this whole spectrum, and when I got the opportunity and just the amazing opportunity to go to the city of Lawrence, where I have lived for 20 years, and be the chief of police. It was hard leaving IMPD, but I truly believe I was qualified and that I got this job because of my dad, Jim Waters, another guy, Captain Brian Denavity, Danny Overly in the back of the room, all of these wonderful advisors in my life. And it all started in 2001 in the Vice Unit when I finally got to meet this larger-than-life guy, Jim Waters, who was a sergeant at the time, and I just had no idea how he would change my life. And I knew him personally, too. Had the opportunity to go to country music concerts with him in Bedford, Indiana, and Powderly, Kentucky, which is like central Kentucky. Just did all kinds of, you see, here I am. All right, there's Mark Rice, Mike Hewitt, and Jim Waters. He loved playing cards, and that's what we were doing in that picture. And so anyway, that's my little tale. And somebody earlier said, maybe Captain Lewis, I'm not sure, that yeah, he's gone from us physically, but he's still working in our hearts. And the leadership lessons I got from him, I am continuing on in Lawrence, City Lawrence. My deputy chief of operations and investigations is sitting in the back of the room. His name's Gary Woodruff, And in our hearts and in our mind, he knew Jim Waters very well. We're trying to take these initiatives that are happening here. That Candy Perry, oh my gosh, where is she? I got to have her come talk to my department. That kind of mindset we're expanding into Lawrence. So Jim Waters, I mean, he's everywhere, right? And he's continuing. And that's all I wanted to say. And I really think in a weird, spiritual, cosmic kind of way, I think Jim's hearing this. I don't know, I'm no theologian. But I really, truly believe that and I sat in the back and I thought to myself, should I say anything? I'm not to the level that Rice and Spurgeon and Chief Garner, and I'm not at that level with knowing Jim and having that history. Who said they knew him since he was 5? Chief. I'm not there, but I just thought, you know what, if there's some slight possibility that there's some way that Jim might be able to hear my words and hear all of your words, then I want to talk to him, because I never told him all this stuff. And hopefully he hears me now. So thank you.
Chief Hospital, thank you. We have Captain Craig Fishburne. Oh, I'm sorry, Rosario, please come up. Apparently Lieutenant Churchill's pushing her up here.
She embodies what Jim Waters was all about.
I'm gonna get you for this. I don't typically like to do this kind of thing, but Brian Lieutenant Churchill wanted me to come up here. I started working for IMPD in 2013.
Support.
I'm going to support.
Can't get it out. So he needed a Latino crime watch specialist, and
Let me get you started. We realized on East District that we had a crime problem in a neighborhood that wasn't reporting the crime. Our Hispanic community, not calling the police. They were getting robbed, burglarized, we had a homicide. Jim's like, we need to make a connection in that community. We don't have any cops over here who speak Spanish. And then ones we can get, they don't know these officers, they don't trust us enough to call 911. We don't care who you are when you call 911, we're gonna come help. So he's like, I need a civilian that can help us bridge that gap. Somebody that community will trust, can put a task force together, bring them in so we can talk to them and start getting those 911 calls and that information so we can fight crime in their neighborhood. And the city said, we don't have the money for that. So Jim didn't take that for an answer, but because he did what he did, he knew you people, he knew business people, he knew organizations, he went to those people. And through those relationships, he got a businessman to pay her salary. And she came to work for us, not on the city dime, not on taxpayer dime, but on this businessman's dime that believed in what she was coming here to do, believed in that mission, believed that that neighborhood needed help, and there's only one way to do it. And that's hire somebody like Rocio Garcia, bring her over here and have her stick her hand out to those people and bring them in. So when she got here, we partnered her with Candy Perry, and they went and they made that happen. And she's been our friend ever since. And then when Steve Talley went to Lawrence Township, he took her.
yeah.
She is a result of that philosophy, that ideology that says, my job as a police leader is to help that community by any means necessary. And money's not going to get in the way. Rules aren't going to get in the way. You know, the red tape. He cut through a lot of that. He brought her in, he put Candy with her. They went to that community. We started getting those 911 calls. We started getting those relationships built. And we were able to fight crime in that way, put bad guys in jail, make their quality of life better, make that neighborhood safer. And she's the product of that. This is a picture from one of those Hispanic events, the soccer games. She coordinated it,
He'd
and he
go
was
wherever
there.
you asked him to go. So if I said, they're playing soccer at St. Philip and these people are messing with him, and they're saying that they're threatening them, and he's like, oh no, we're gonna go over there. So we rode out there, and these people were so impressed with, his presence, not just his physical size, but just the aura that he gave off. So he was impressive. So I'd show up with him, and all the ladies would be like, oh my God, he's so tall. My little old ladies would come up and be like, I want a picture with him. So, he was an impressive guy, and he was an honor to work for him. So he taught me a whole lot.
So, any other, do we have any of the employees who wish to speak at this point in time? Seeing none, Amy, are you wanting to speak? Okay, Amy Harwell. I'm sorry.
Speak for our office real quick?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry, yes.
That's okay.
Amy, if you can hold off for just a
I
moment.
won't take very long, thank you.
Daphne will be speaking for the prosecutor's office. Thank you.
All right, so I hope I can do this. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Daphne Whitmire. I work at the prosecutor's office. I help Dirk out. I call it East, my home away from home, because I spend at least one day a week here. And I got to know Commander Waters at the time he was Commander Waters to me while I started working out here when I was doing burglary prevention. And we started talking one day at a community event, and I always wish I could see the image of him and me together, because it had to be hilarious. But we were talking, and somehow we talked about where I was from, and come to find out he lived in my home county. We talked a lot about things there, and so he moved on, and I was very sad to see, like everyone, when he left East District. And I had been working on a case that I had got from a community member. And I have 3 small children, so sometimes I'm up late at night with them. And I just thought, I'm going to send an email. It's probably about 12:30 at night. I'm going to just send an email to Commander Spurgeon, Deputy Chief Rodgers, and Lieutenant Rory to let them know what a great job this officer did on this case and how we were able to work together based on a community complaint. And I jokingly said in my email, of course, Commander Waters emailed me right back and was like, great work. And I jokingly sent him an email back, said, yeah, I should be I'm an honorary detective now at East District. And I could just kind of picture that big smile of his and him writing back, and he's like, you're welcome anytime. And I think that pretty much sums up Jim Waters to me. You're welcome anytime. And he made me feel like I belonged here in this community, and that was just the true essence of him. Everybody talks about that big smile, and like I said, I'll always remember that, and I was talking to some officers here earlier tonight, or this afternoon, that I'll always remember seeing him at a community event, him coming up to me and doing that side hug, and my head would always go to his gun belt. But that's what I'll always remember with him, and I just wish, I know he's looking at us, and I know that we will continue with his work and explaining what he's done here on East District to other law enforcement agencies, and explaining the importance of community policing, and just, I just wanted to kind of say what he meant to me, a small town girl, and just the great things that he's done for the city. So, thank you.
Amy Harwell.
Good evening, everyone. I have so many stories I could tell you about James Walters. The first day I met him, we were doing an event in Marquette, Rifle. And he came to the event. I can't remember who brought him, but that was his first time in Marquette, Rifle. And when I first saw him, I said, God, does he stop smiling? He's always smiling. He gives you a purpose. with that smile. Whatever you're doing, you have a purpose. And I have worked with him for better of 6 years in Martindale Brightwood. And when I ask him for about something, or if he can do this, he's never say no. I'll see what I can do. And lo and behold, get it done. And you wonder how, and so quick. But he has become a friend of mine in so many ways. I had a bad accident a few years ago. No one thought I would live. And when I woke up in the hospital from being unconscious, the first day I saw Mike Buren. The next morning, I saw him sitting at my bedside when I woke up. I couldn't speak the first couple of days, but I saw him there, and he came back. I said, "What you doing here?" He said, "You don't even know what happened to you." And he laughed. When I came home from the rehab center 8 months later, he brought his father to my house. And he said, "That's your attorney." I said, "You're not asking me yet." He said, "Would you ask?" I said, "No." And he spent a complete day, he and his father, at my house, talking to me, telling me what's going to happen and all this. But when it comes to the community, and you ask him, tell him what's going on in the community, and you ask him what he can do to help you, he'll get on the phone right there and he'll call the officers that he need to call. And they show him. And they do, and they are. We have so much to thank him for. And it is just hard to know that I'm not going to see him walking into that door, smiling. "Hey, Amy, how are you doing today? How is everybody doing in Martindale Brightwood?" And even since he has not been there, we're able to call him and ask him things and how to get this done, and he still do it. And when he left East District, before he left, he brought Mike Buren to the meeting and introduced him. And I have become friends with all these officers out here. And it is my pleasure to do anything for these officers because they have taken the initiative from him and they never use the word no. We'll see what we can do. He has taught not just the officers in blue, but he has taught the community how to live with each other and to work with each other and never use the word no. I see what I can do. He was a remarkable, and I mean a remarkable person. And I will always remember him. Strange enough, he had the accident on Sunday. I buried my husband on Saturday before that. And you know, you're supposed to use, or they allow you to use the security team from the funeral home. I called him and I said, I didn't want them. I need some officers who were military to be my escort. He said, Amy, we don't do that for the public. Those were his words. But I'll see what I can do. And he called this gentleman. And when I came out of the church, I had 6 bike riders that did the most wonderful formation at that funeral, and they were all military, retired military. And when I got the call on Sunday to tell me what happened, I I was drinking a cup of coffee and I dropped the cup and broke it because I couldn't believe it. And then I got the call again on Thursday telling me he passed away. This is just in a week span of my grief. And to have another grief so close. So ladies and gentlemen, I would say to leave this with you. Always remembering him. Because as everyone has said, he's hearing us, he's seeing us. But I have a lot to remember. Martindale Brightwood has a lot to remember and a lot to miss of that beautiful smile walking in the door. Because for a man that never say no, I see what I can do. He has left something behind for each and every one of us in this room to hang into and use this to help each other. When your neighbor calls and you and ask you for a favor, let me see what I can do. Don't tell the neighbor no, because you don't know what's going to happen. He has left this and instilled this in all of us, and we need to carry it on because it's important. You don't know what may happen tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Peterson next, please. You can stay wherever you want.
Okay, I'm staying here because I wasn't probably dressed for this, but I am going to sit happy to speak about deputy artists. I am chief artist, I'm sorry. I'm Vicki Peterson. I'm the founder and CEO of All Senior Citizens Connect. And about 4 years ago, I've had the organization since 2011, and God told me moving forward to start doing things for the seniors in the community. So 4 years ago, I gave my very first event, was the Senior Awareness Day. And Steve Talley was there, and he was at his table from Lawrence Township. And that very first event, we had 133 seniors that showed up. We were at Old Bethel United Methodist Church. And Steve Talley says, oh my God, Vicki, he said, this is what the commander's been looking for. I said, the commander? He said, yeah. He said, I'm ready to call him over here now. I said, the commander? He said, yeah, the commander of the East Side. Well, he showed up. And in come this, well, come to find out he's 6'5". And he comes over, and I have to pause there because just as tall as he was, his heart was even bigger. And from that day on, and then he would give you, like, they said, that side hug, and you just gone in it. You know, because he was so tall, and he was, you know, you just going in it. And so from that point on, we had developed a friendship. So not long after that, he was promoted. He was supported. I could call him anytime. He loved, I loved seeing that picture with the singers up there. And so when he got ready to leave, he was promoted to deputy chief, I think, at the time, in the office in downtown. And he came to me to personally tell me that he was being promoted. He said, but I won't leave you without somebody that's just as good as me. He said, I'm bringing you to you and introduce you to him. And he did, and it was Chief Michael Brown, Commander Brown. So Commander Brown filled those shoes, and you, just like Chief Order, saw him everywhere. And we're in Warren Township, so they would come to all our community meetings and support us. So we felt very special, but to sit here now and hear he done the Latinos, he done everything. I couldn't sit there and not let you know he also loved the seniors. And when Michael Brown came, same thing. So then he left. I said, oh wow. So then they brought a new commander. So Ron Rex, I do a lot of community things, and he's everywhere as well. So we gave him a plaque. We gave Chief Waters a plaque 2 years ago because even though he was in the office as the chief, he never forgot as I was seeing. You get that smile, you get that hug you can lean into. And if anybody know me, they know I take selfies. So we get our selfies. And he was just a great guy. So I just wanted to say that about him. I know it's so much more, but the hours get late and I don't want to go on and on. But he was exceptional. And when I got home, I'd been out of the day as usual. And when I got home, and I'm a news person, so I had the news, turned the news on, and I saw that, it dropped me to my knees. It dropped me to my knees because I was like, such a great man, that he truly did love the community. And I see he loved us all. It didn't matter whether you were old, whether you were young, whether you were a kid, whether you were Latino, whatever you was, he tried to help us. And that's what he did. I'll always love him. He brought I have a lot of friends on police departments because I love the police anyway. Because if it wasn't for them, we'd be in worse shape. But to be able to develop a relationship with them, if you have not, do so. Tell your generations in your family, even if you were not the best when you were younger, times are different. And share with them that they are friendly, like we were taught when we were little, officer friendly, and they still are. And as a senior myself, I just like to salute Chief Waters and all the rest. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. James Wilson.
You guys gotta excuse me a little bit if I get emotional. My story, I still call him Commander Waters, is a little bit different. Lieutenant Churchill, where you at? There you go, Cap. You may remember this a long time ago, and Sergeant White was here. Those who don't know who I am, I'm born and raised from the Martindale-Brightwood area. I'm born and raised in 23rd and LaSalle. So this is a little bit different for me. I'm gonna tell you a little unique story. I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet, but I want you to get a whole perspective of just how much Chief means to me tremendously on a level that you can probably never imagine. And so many other great officers that I had the opportunity to build relationships over the years, even Dirk and Mary Ann and whatnot. I've been knowing Dirk Dirk can contest this. I've been knowing him since I was like 15 years old. So coming from Brightwood, like I was telling the Commander and Sergeant Ricks a while ago, Brightwood was rough. When I was growing up, it was really rough. And y'all looking at the cat is really from the street, like for real, for real. I promise you, y'all probably had me. Last time I was in a police station besides meeting Waters, was I was in interrogation. I was involved in a lot of stuff when I was younger. And I made a lot of unfortunate mistakes because I didn't care. I didn't have nobody that I felt that invested in me, that believed in me, and didn't give me that opportunity. So, to make a long story short, I ended up going to prison for a very long time. I went to prison for almost 10 years of my life. I went to prison as a teenager and came out as an adult. And so I met Commander Waters when I was 27 years old, 28 years old, just being released from prison. And I had this idea. When I was in prison, the only thing I really focused on my first 4 years, I was angry. I blamed the police. I blamed everybody else for my downfall. I did. I pointed the finger at everybody else because I made the decisions that put me in the situations that I am today. And so, I was like, man, forget that. I never really liked the police, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I told Lieutenant Churchill this a long time ago. I said, man, I didn't like the police, man. To be sitting here, it was nervous for me. It was different back then. But back then, when I was in the streets, we were molded not to care about the police. The police is our enemy. That's how we're molded. We're molded if we see them, it's called on sight. If you get in a situation with them, if you know it's going to be an A or B felony, you got to go all the way. That's how we was raised. That's the way I came up out here in the streets. I'm telling you, I was so stupid when I was younger. And I suffered what I call identity crisis. I always talk to Chief about it all the time. Identity crisis. It's trying to fit in with that environment when you know you're really not a part of it. And it's hard, and that's what's going on out here in the generations. And that's something when Chief came to me, he asked, how do we make that connection, like Lieutenant Churchill was talking about, with the younger generations? And that's what it is. We're trained not to like officers with perception. We don't even give them a chance in personality at all. Lieutenant Allen is a prime example. He tried to help that man. He tried to save that man's life. And unfortunately, it cost him his own. But these are the things we don't take the time out in the streets to really kind of invest in and get to know the individual. So make a long story short, when I came home and started getting involved in a lot of stuff that I do, I own an organization called Circle Up Indy, for those who haven't heard about it. We just had an annual Peace Festival on June 24th. And that Peace Festival, guys, for those who came out there, and I thank all the officers in each district that came, it wouldn't be in existence until this day if it wasn't for Amy Harwell and Commander Waters. When I first started this organization, I came home from prison, and when I seen in my neighborhood, it got to me a lot. All the problems, all the havoc I caused. The young people watched us growing up. And this is, I like hearing what I heard today about focusing on them. because they are paying attention, and they was paying attention then. And so when I came home, and these young cats, when I went to prison, they was kids. Now these are the ones that got guns on their side that you guys are chasing, that's out here selling dope and whatnot. And I asked them, because I'm not better than nobody. I'll never forget where I come from. And I always go back into the community because I don't judge anybody. God gave me opportunity. And I asked them, like, what's up? Why y'all out here doing what y'all doing? Ah, man, you can't tell me anything, man. You was out here. That's the first thing they said. And I couldn't, because at the time I wasn't doing the work, and I felt that I couldn't. How can I show them something different and talk to them about something different if they can't see it? And that's a lot of times that's what happened. We don't see things. You'd be surprised in my community alone, people that I grew up with never left outside the community. Dead serious. Never went even to the south side, east side, north side, none of that really. Tremendous amount. A lot of these officers can attest to that. So I came up with this idea to just throw this block party. I didn't know what I was doing. Lieutenant Patricio and Kat probably thought I was crazy then too. And I'll never forget, man, this is the coolest thing in the world, man. I met Commander Waters at the time. Me and Amy invited me to an event at Galilee. And it was just an idea. I didn't know the name, I didn't know nothing. I just knew I just wanted to do something fun, positive, to bring everybody together so they can get a chance to know each other. That was just my concept. Never did I thought it would grow into what it is today. And so Amy invited me to Galilee. She's like, come on, come and pitch the idea, come and talk, let the people know what you're trying to do. And you know, I went there and whatnot to have the breakfast and whatnot every early morning. And Commander Waters got up there and he spoke a little bit. But when I came in, he was just scared to sit down, I believe, Amy, if I'm correct. So I never got a chance to see how tall this guy was. So I hear everybody talk about this height. You know, you can see it and cheer a little bit, but when he stands up, it's like, you a cop, I won't mess with him. And so, anyway, and when I gave the spiel, Amy and them introduced us at Galilee, and me and a couple our team members gave the spiel of what it is we're trying to accomplish in the neighborhood. Once again, totally disorganized. We didn't have a clue. I didn't consider myself no leader. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just had an idea and a passion, and I wanted to follow it and just see people happy again, you know. And so we started putting everything together. We started putting logistics together, and he walked up to me, you know, before he was getting ready to leave, and I'm looking at this tall dude, and I'm like, hey man, this dude is tall. This is a tall cop. And he gave me his card, and he said, I want you to connect with me. He said, when you get a chance, give me a call because I want to meet you. So when I gave him a call, I came to East District. Now you gotta remember, I'm still fresh out the penitentiary. I didn't even been home a year yet. I'm still on parole. I am terrified. I don't know nothing and nobody in this game, you know, whatsoever. And this cop wants me to talk to him. So I didn't understand why this cop wanted to talk to him. I didn't understand the correlation of what he did in the community and just how pivotal he was in the community. I didn't have a clue at the time. So he gave me his card. I'm nervous. I'm like, man, I'm scared. So I said, okay, cool. I called him. I set up the meeting, and he asked me to come to East District. Now, somebody where I'm coming from, coming to the police station, it's serious. So I was nervous. I didn't know how to feel because I'd never experienced nothing like that in my life. So when I got here, remember they called for Cap. I don't know if it was you that came and got me at the front, Lieutenant, or it was Commander itself, but he took me to the back, and he had Cap, Lieutenant, and Sergeant White was all in the room. So I'm just looking, I see Lieutenant Churchill, his face is so strong and serious. I'm scared, but that's his road dog because he got his back as he should. I see Cap just sitting there, he's just looking. And so when I sat down, he introduced me to their team and whatnot and told them what I was trying to do. And they hit hard, like boom, 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 boom. And asking all these questions, and I didn't have the answers because I didn't know. But you know what? After that meeting, he contacted me and he told me he wanted to sit down and talk to me. He was like, there's a lot of stuff I want to help you get together. I want you to start connecting with people. And he helped me understand what it means to be a leader. And so me and Chief Hite ended up becoming really good friends, and really good friends to this day. And Chief used to always talk to me about making sure to connect with Commander at the time, East District. But when I came in, I had to get these permits to hold this event and all this great stuff. I just had this idea, and I was ready to go. And they had to bring me back a little bit and help me understand a lot of things, the processes. But the thing that really touched me the most about all of this, after I told him my story, not once did that man look down on me for being a criminal. Not once did he judge me for the past mistakes that I made. He embraced me. Not only did he embrace me, he taught me so much. It was times that I heard somebody say sending emails late night. Oh yeah, I had them late nights sending the email, and then he'd call me, turn around, and he was like, so what makes you think, you know, tell me about this, tell me about that. Because I throw some ideas off of him, trying to get him to understand what it means to be a leader. Because I didn't understand what it meant to be a leader. I didn't. It was so much disorganization. But he helped me start putting stuff in perspective. And he always encouraged me to come out. He always pushed me to meet people, to network with people and whatnot, and not once did he ever judge me for my past. And that right there made me more receptible to listen to somebody in law enforcement, listen to somebody, because they're people. They make mistakes like anybody else. They're no different. They just go out every morning and put that badge and a gun on and protect us. They put their lives on the line, and we don't appreciate that. And that's weird. Come from somebody like me that spent many years in the cell, but I never understood that. I never gave an officer a chance to make that connection. I never gave him an opportunity to build those relationships. And so Chief afforded me the opportunity to build that relationship with him, to understand that there are genuine people out there. There's people that wear their uniform every day that care about us, people like me, the people that I didn't think cared about me when I felt like nobody cared more than anything in the world. And it meant a lot. It meant a lot to me, given where I come from. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And so I have this newfound respect for law enforcement now, man, and I'm able to take this back in the community. My wife can tell you, when we out there in the neighborhood, I'm always preaching to young cats. I'm like, why do you have that ideology as you against the police? Why? I question. You're doing something you ain't supposed to do, then you're going to have that ideology. If you sit down and talk to them, I ain't talking to the police. I'm like, man, sit down and get a chance to know him. Talk to him. We just out there the other day talking to him and talking to him about that. You know? And I was like, get a chance to know him. Because I invited Commander Waters to come in the block with me. He came on Adams with me before. He came out there. They came on Adams. And that's what's up. People got a chance to meet their commander. People got a chance to make a connection. People got a chance to see something different. It wasn't always about coming up as a homicide or somebody's going to go to jail or anything like that. It was a little bit different. So I thank Chief for giving me the opportunity to meet so many great leaders throughout the city, to open up the door for me, and more importantly, for believing in me and believing in my mission. And I appreciate you.
Yes.
Come on.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay, my voice gets ready to go, so. And notice, I'm the first one brought notes. Everybody else spoke, and I'm speaking from my heart. It's just that I'm old, and I'm afraid I'll forget what I want to say. The commander talked about grief in the beginning. And we always think of what words can we say at a time like this, and grief certainly comes into play. It's said that grief is our selfishness. We've lost something. Our loved one has gained something. They hopefully are in paradise, are happy, not in pain. And so, you know, we're the ones hurting. But we're human, so we do grieve. Deputy Chief Waters was too young to die.
Amen.
I was surprised to learn he was only 48 years old. I could have been his mother, but I didn't think of that, you know, age-wise, because I learned so much from him and asked his advice on so many things because of his wisdom. I learned, for example, that kids don't use common sense till they're about 25 years old. I sure wish I'd known that when my kids were growing up. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to work with him as deputy chief and as commander out here in my double hat capacity. When I was working before I retired, I worked with him in that capacity. I'm president of this neighborhood association, so I worked with him in my neighborhood capacity. And whenever I wanted advice about the neighborhood or anything, I'd email him thinking, oh, I'll get an answer the next day. No, I had an answer before midnight every time I, emailed him about something. He even came to my retirement party when I retired. So, I had a lot of interaction with him. We met at the Y one time about problems they were having over there, and he really cared about this neighborhood and the whole East District. This gentle giant was loved by all. for his humble, quiet manner and caring ways. He treated everyone with respect. The Eastgate Neighborhood Association, which I've been president of for 27 years now, is going to create a plaque with colored picture of him on a bronze plaque, and that I'll be working with IMPD on that, and unfortunately it's not ready for presentation today because we're working on it. And then we'll present it to East District when it is ready. So until we meet again, gentlemen, Jim, may we all continue with the good works and examples you have shown us. You touched so many lives, and if every one of us would follow his examples, what a better world it would be. We love you.
They have Dr. Dina Cushenberry up here, Superintendent of the Warren Township School.
I'll just stand over here, but what I have to say is, when I first heard that, I remember him as commander. When I first heard that, the word that he had the accident, I never ever thought that he would pass, because he was just this huge presence. And when I heard it, you know how you just go, and I'm still like, because I can't, I wanted to really stand up and speak, but what he's done for Warren Township Schools has been amazing. I will tell you, when they were talking about the juvenile jeopardy 6 years ago, he sat in my office and it was just an idea. And you know, then it came to pass. And I know he's done a lot of work with our district with it. I know he's done a lot of work with IPS and some other places, but he was, every time I was in his presence, even though he had on a uniform, I never felt a threat. You know, sometimes when you see an officer, not to be mean or anything, you feel a threat. This big guy in this uniform always had this non-threatening presence about him, and when he talked to you, you were the most important person in the room in that moment. He was just the most authentic person as far as officers that I've met. And so what I want to say to you is, I'm still, but one day that will go away, and for what he's done for our community, Warren Township Schools, he's just been there for us. And Officer Spurgeon, and I'm glad that you're with us. And I don't think you remember Mr. Churchill, but we were at the Rotary and you spoke. So he did have
one of his favorite restaurants.
Yes, 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 yes. And so he was always in the community, making those connections, making you feel that, you know, you make a difference. You're a part of making this community better. So I wasn't going to speak. I was just listening. But I just thank you guys each and every day for what you do. And I'm still in shock. I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked. So thank you.
Please, yes.
My name is Shauna Smiley. I haven't met you yet, Commander, but you will. And I'm with the YMCA. So I used to be the Director of Membership at Randsburg for 6 years. And when Jim first came here as Commander, I was introduced to him by our City Councilman and told him we would be great friends. Because I felt in that first experience that he had a spirit that I needed to be involved with. I needed to be attached to him, follow him, get to know everything about him. And I did. I pretty much became his shadow for 6 years. I remember coming over here the first time when he first moved in, and I said, you need some colors on your walls and you all need some plants. So he literally went shopping, filled up his car with plants and pictures for the wall, showed up, did his whole office, and when I came back 2 weeks later, everything was dead. And I would also like to note that you still don't have any plants or pictures on this wall. So I had so much fun with him in the 6 years of our time together. He became my mentor. Annoying, very upsetting. You know, what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. But it's always been Elvis. And I didn't really realize how much he actually loved like the musician Elvis and the connection to that story. And on a conference call this past Monday, there were about 20 people on the conference call, and I remember saying out loud, "Oh, this call," and on mute, "Oh, this call is so boring, it's so irritating, it's so frustrating." And somebody on the call in the background was playing Elvis music. And I literally said, "Who still listens to Elvis? That is ridiculous." And I just started laughing out loud, thinking that that was Jim reminding me that he's still around doing his fun little jokes and his goofy little stories. So he's still here. His spirit is still alive and well in all of you, and I encourage you all to carry it forward and don't forget him. And so I mentioned the plaque we're going to have at Starbucks. We're also going to do a dedication to him at that YMCA across the street as well, because he was a big part of our family there as well. So I hope that you're all looking to do something to keep his spirit and his memory alive, because he was very important and we're family. So thank you.
Helen Jackson.
Come on down. Okay, I'm Helen Jackson. I am with Victim Assistance with IMPD. And I just want to, before I go any further, I just want to touch briefly. I know several people are talking about we need to talk to each other. We need to make sure we're all okay. It's a grieving process. I'm not going to take up too much time because I want to tell my little story too. So I have some papers that I'm just going to put out on, and you can just pass it around. If you need to talk, one thing that our unit does, we help people that are hurting. We help them get through the hurt and the pain. And I can assure you one thing, it will get easier. It just takes time. So I always encourage people, you know, focus on today. Just get through today and don't worry about tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, then you focus on tomorrow, okay? So right now I'm gonna focus on what I gotta say. I'm probably an exception to everybody in this room because I moved from subsidized housing and I bought a condo. And I did not like my neighbor. And you're not gonna believe who my neighbor was, but it was, at the time, Sergeant Jim Waters. I did not like him because he parked in my parking spot. And he was a cop. And you know, cops think they're stuff. I just didn't like cops because I'm from Gary. Don't hold that against me, okay? So I was like, I'm gonna go tell the association this cop parked in my spot. I don't know who he think he is, but he's not all that just because he's tall. And so I go to talk to the association, and she goes, "Oh," she goes, "you're the new homeowner. I'm glad you're here." She goes, "I gotta tell you, the police officer, we told him he was parked in the wrong spot, and he quickly moved. He got up and he moved out, and he won't park there anymore." I was like, okay. I still don't like him. But when I got home, he was parked in his spot, which is right next to my spot. I'm like, oh great, now he's gonna be next to me every time. I didn't like that. So he had this girl in the car, and so I was like, I'll be friendly, I'll say hello. So he smiled and he said hello, and I said hi, and I said, oh. I said, nice young girlfriend you got. And you know what he said? This is my daughter. If there was a time I could change some colors, let me tell you. I was so embarrassed. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, hi. And she says hello, and after that I'm like, okay, now I want to be his friend because I'm embarrassed. So I saw him the next day, and I just immediately put my head down, And he just starts laughing. He goes, "Why you got your head down? Look up, look up." So I did, and I said, "Can we start over?" He says, "Start over? We didn't even get started." He goes, "I'm Jim Waters." I'm like, "I'm Helen Jackson." So that was the beginning of a new friendship. And I lived in the community, and I saw somebody walk through the community that really looked like they didn't belong. And I went to him and I said, "Hey, I need your help. I know you're a cop, but I see some stuff in the community that I don't like. And I just came from subsidized housing. I'm invested in the community." I said, "So what do I do?" He goes, "Oh, that's easy. Start a crime watch." I said, "That's a good idea. Why don't you do it?" He goes, "Oh, this community has done it so many times that probably they don't think it'll work." And I'm like, no, we gotta do this. We gotta do this. So I'm just gonna jump ahead. I had to jump through loops and hoops. The association told me no, knocked on that door again, and I was like, Sergeant Waters, well, by then he was lieutenant by then, because he just started boom, boom, boom. So I was like, "Lieutenant Waters, can you help me out?" He's like, "No problem, I'll give him a call." He calls me back 5 minutes later. "Okay, you can do it." That's it? I'm like, that quick? So he says to me, "If you can get 20 people there, you have done a miracle." I said, "Are you kidding?" I said, "I knocked on 216 doors. They're all coming." He goes, "If you can get 20 people, you've done the miracle." We had 33 people. I did the miracle. But you know what? The crime watch that we did, it was so successful. But it was everything that he had taught me. So that was, it was just great. And I used to say, "I want to get some sponsors for our crime watch." And he's like, "Okay, let's go out to dinner and then you hit them up for a donation." And I'm like, "Hey, that's a good idea." So that's what we did. We would go to all these different restaurants, like once every 3 weeks we'd go to a restaurant and I'd say, "Hey, this is Lieutenant," and they would always give us. So we even had Mayor Ballard. Okay, don't get mad, y'all. But we had Mayor Ballard come there, and the chief of police came there, and we had Rick's Boatyard. We had a guy, airplane rides. Who knew? It was great. So I just wanted to say, I'm halfway through now. So anyway, it was such an honor. Jim, and I felt bad, I keep calling him Jim, but Deputy Chief Jim Waters, he was a friend. He was an eloquent speaker. He knew no stranger. He never judged anyone. He was always there to help. And I just wanted to, I have this book that I had made, and he had an idea. He always had a vision, and he wanted to get the crime rate down in East District. And so he says, "Let's do this pilot program." So people in victim assistance, he has us at some of the districts. And I have the honor of being here, which is so cool. So a lot of you all probably remember this. This was actually our last task force meeting, which was last month, correct?
Yeah.
And he was speaking, and it was so funny because as he came up here, one of the ladies grabbed his hand, and I said, "Did you feel famous when she did that?" He was like, "Yeah, I kind of did." But I said, "They really love you there." But I just wanted to key in on a couple of the pictures. So he introduced me to Janice McHenry, who is the city county counselor. And of course, he's working there. This is like show and tell. I feel like I'm at the library or something. But this is my favorite right here. This talks about the type of man he was. He was a family man. He loved his kids. He loved his wife. And he was a grandpa. And he loved his little baby, who called him Popo. I don't know if you all know this, but he was given the Mayor's Community Service Award. And it was one of the things that he did. He had a vision for the Juvenile Justice Jeopardy, and 2 people donated money. Unlike, where's Smiley? I'm not gonna say who did it, but I think we all do now. But downtown at the canal, his name is actually on a brick because of that. So if you ever want to see his name, you can go downtown and his name is on the brick. And then here's Captain Rice. So, just several people. Our community got Crime Fighter of the Year, so that's me with some weed, even though I still got it on. But so we have in here. He's working, of course, he's always working. That's when he was assistant chief of police. I'm in my home. I know I'm throwing words out here like people know him. But this is a rainbow. I thought it was such a peaceful picture of him. And then this picture, I don't think Commander knows, but this is you and his brother, Tim. So I know I take a lot of pictures, but they're just, you just never know. So, and this is a picture of him just working hard. But before I leave, I just want to say I truly am honored to be here, and I felt like it's so fitting. I think of Deputy Chief Jim Waters, Captain Rice, and Commander as like the three musketeers. So they are very dear to me. There's another book back there, and of course I told Captain Rice that's for him. And so it's only fitting that while I go sit down, I present this to Commander Roger Spurgeon.
Thank you. So, who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment. My name is Jackie Sissel. I currently work for Charter Schools USA, and we oversee TC High School. But police officers have a very soft spot in my heart because I served on the merit board from 1998 to 2000 under Stephen Goldsmith. I was appointed, so I already have a soft spot in my heart for police officers. But for Deputy Chief Waters, we had seen him out in the street, and we invited him to come to the school. And he said, sure, meet me at Starbucks, of course. And we met him at the Irvington Starbucks. So I know there's one on Shaylin, but he always hit us up at the Irvington Starbucks. And we sit there and smile just big as life. I mean, just so willing to help our kids. And many of you know that TC Howe was closed for several years and then reopened, and because of that, it kind of lost its connection with the community. And so we just had a tough time trying to find community partners to help us with TC Howe High School, and our kids had developed a real reputation of being kind of rough kids. But Jim Waters came to the school. We invited him to come to our community partner meeting, and he says, I'll see what I can do. Didn't really commit, but said, I'll see what I can do. And during that meeting, we looked up and he comes strolling in the door with his cup of coffee. And he went around to every vendor table, spoke to our parents, talked to our kids. And it just meant the world to us that he would take the time out to come and spend some time with us and our kids. When I heard about the wreck, I saw it on TV like Ms. Cushenberry. I just saw it on the news, and I was like, oh my God. But I thought, he's such a big, strong guy. I said, I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna call a few people to pray. He's gonna be just fine. We're gonna pray him through this. And I was not that concerned because I just really thought it was a car wreck and he would just be okay. And then I'm on West and Ohio, and I see these officers and more cop cars just coming from Methodist Hospital, I believe it was, down West Street. And I said, oh my God, something has happened. And I said, and I bet it's Chief Waters. And sure enough, he had passed, and that's how I found out about it. Just broke my heart because he was just such a kind and wonderful person and such an asset to our school. We just really loved him. So I just didn't want the time to pass without saying something about him and how he reached out to our school when a lot of people had kind of thrown TC Howe High School to the side. Jim Waters came through there and offered his support, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
There is a book by C.S. Lewis, and those of you that know C.S. Lewis, his work
it's very deep. And he's speaking with respect to a verse in 1 John 3 where it talks about, it says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed on us, that we should be called children of God. Therefore, the world does not know us because it did not know him. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not yet been revealed what we shall be, but we know when he is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is." And so, in a Bible study, we were looking at this verse and C.S. Lewis, and one of his statements says that there are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. That's because there is a weight of glory upon each of us. And for Jim, Commander Waters, Detective Chief, you know, he understood that, and that was his life, so that he could talk to those that were in chains or not, because he knew he was not talking to a mere mortal. He was talking with someone, as a young man here earlier, he was in prison, but now he is out. There is a weight of glory upon this young man that Chief Waters knew. And so for each of us, how we continue on with it, it's that there's a weight of glory upon everyone that we meet. And we have an opportunity through what we say to them to draw that weight out so that they take that destination, you know, that takes them away from the pit, but into a place of glory. And all week, you know, I've been hearing everything about, you know, Deputy Chief, and like everyone else, I was just devastated. I cried, and I said, Lord, how? He is one that this city so needed. But he just kept giving me this, and so I've been sitting over there, and I just wanted to share that Jim saw the weight of glory on everybody. And he spoke it to it, and he drew it out. And those are the stories that we have today. But it's not just him. Each of us can talk to one another and understand that there's something about everyone, because we're all made in the image of God. And we can draw that weight of glory out.
Yes, ma'am.
Doris is gonna get shy on me. Doris Winchester is sitting over there, and my name is Pat Stills, and we belong to New Zion Tabernacle Church, and we have every month a public safety breakfast. And one thing about that, it brings all the officers, no matter what district they're in, come out and have breakfast with us. But Chief Walters, he would always come from time to time. Even though he went downtown, he would still come. And I remember one time he called and he says, I'm on my way, I'm on my way. He says, I'm just getting out of the meeting, but you know I gotta come. And he would always show up. And we just love him so much because of his love that he showed to our church and to the community. And that's one thing that, you know, everybody was talking about being involved. Without Mr. Walters, I don't think it would be the success for Brightwood, because that's where we're located as it is. And so I just want to thank all the officers for all that you do and the love that you show. And to Commander Chief Walters' family, he will always be in prayer because there were so many people that cared about him and his family.
Who would like to go next? Krista.
Thanks. My name is Chris Staub. I'm on the Near East Side Community Organization. I've been running a Crime Reduction Code Enforcement Committee for a few years now. Being with this committee, I've attended quite a few task force. It's kind of started with Becky Lake as commander of East District, and then we went to Chad Connect, and then we went to Scott Hassler, and then Jim Waters. And when Jim Waters took over, no disrespect to any of the previous commanders, but something was a little different when Jim Waters took over. It took maybe a couple months to figure it out. He infected East District. That smile that you see right there carried over to Mark Rice, carried over to Brian, carried over to Mike, carried over to all the other officers. It was like everybody had a different attitude all of a sudden. It was like they were glad to be here. It was like they were glad to hear from us. They were glad to talk to us. It was just kind of uplifting, like somebody had flipped a switch and brought Jim Waters in. To be honest with you, that infection has carried over. It carried over with Mike Bruin, it's carried over with Roger. And no disrespect that I'm not recognizing their rank, but I consider all of East District friends. So no disrespect on ignoring their rank, but you guys have made an important impact on the community, because as you guys are wearing your smiles, this carries over and infects the community as well. We've had some really rough times, we've had some really tough times, and yet these smiles prevail. And I have to blame it on this guy here, because, like I say, he has affected IMPD, but he most importantly has infected IMPD. And he not only did it to East District, but I think he's carried it over to the entire force. So for that, Jim, I am very thankful for what you have done, not only for IMPD, but for the community as well. I will always be eternally grateful for him. Thank you.
Next. You don't have to come up, and we can conclude if you like, but I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to share what's on their heart if they would like to.
I'm gonna stand here, my legs are hurting now.
Okay.
Like Sister Pat said, we're from New Zion Tabernacle, 2602 LaSalle, and you know, what echoes in my mind has been said over and over, the infectious smile. You guys always came through that side door, and his statue, you know, whenever he come, he commanded respect, not in word, but in statue, his presence. And like Pat said, he would always, even if he had something else to do, sometimes before he would go to a meeting or a presentation, he would come to us, or either afterward, he would come. And I remember a couple of months ago, he came in and he was all shiny, all brass, and you know, he was just decorated. And I asked him, I said, "You all spiffied up? Where you coming from?" And he had been to a presentation, and he just looked, he was gorgeous. His height and everything, you know, he was immaculate, his everything. And he just stood in front of in the middle of the floor, and we just, you know, looked at him and, you know, and marveled at him, you know, and I'm at a loss for word, but we loved him. He was one of our favorite. One of our favorite. That's one of our favorite. A lot of them are our favorite, and we pray for you guys. And when you hurt, we hurt. And when our breakfast club first started, they told us that we could not ask you guys if we could pray for you or with you. But there's certain ones that come will not leave unless we pray.
Come on now.
You know, they will not leave. They had gathered around in circle prayer. And I think Jim's brother died a couple of years ago. And he would come and we would pray for his brother, and he would give us reports on him. But, you know, he passed, and whenever I think about him, I think about his family, his wife, and his children, but I think about his parents. I'm a parent of 3 children, and I couldn't imagine having 2 of my children, leave at such an early age. So ever since this has happened, when I think about him, I immediately pray for his children, and something good came out of it, because I went to the viewing on Tuesday, and I was just going to run in and run out, because I work nights. So I run in, and then I run out and I go get some sleep. But I got there at 3:40, and I didn't leave until 7:41. And during all that time, Scotty was behind me, a young police officer was behind me, and a retired cop was in front of me and his friend, and we became friends during that and I told Scotty about the Breakfast Club, and he came. Friday was the first he came, and then I saw him tonight, so I gained a friend because of he's still getting people together.
Bonding us.
Yeah. Even in death, he's still working at Magic. So I'm gonna truly miss him, and that smile, as everybody has said, that smile was so beautiful, so warming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And he would love to know that you all marveled at him as well. Does anybody else have anything they would like to share?
I have a poem I'd like to share. And I appreciate each and one of you officers out here and all you people on the east side. And this is a poem for Jim Waters' family and friends. A pair of angel wings. They carved his name into the cold marble wall. They hung his picture so proudly in the hall. Folded flag from his burial day. They're gently creased, then safely packed away. Shiny boots are silent, no longer echoing in the hall. Their steps silenced by that final call. His badge now pressed near his old teddy bear, with his baseball glove and some silky strands of baby hair. He traded his badge for a pair of angel wings. The screams of siren for the songs that angels sing. He rests his hand of God, warmed by his heaven's light, watched over by angels through God's eternal night. So many names upon the wall, and God's arms hold them all. Fathers and sons, sisters too, died for the badge, died for the blue. Hopes and dreams died also that day. With their last breath, such a sad price to pay. Though others will follow in their shoes, there's room for them in God's arms too. In God's loving arms, those men shall ever rest, their badges shining proudly upon their blue chests. And for Jim Waters and his family and friends, he's just leaving so many memories behind. He's just left a trail, a wonderful trail behind us. And thank you, Jim, and thank all of you. Love you guys.